All right. Well, good afternoon. Well, and the journey continues, right? So you heard the investor acquisitions. There was one panel there. You're all wondering, and then Douglas and I, we're going to make it up to you. You're going to hear from both of us because it's a role that a lot of people don't understand. We call it the quarterback, and if there's one company that plays it really well, or one individual, and Douglas' work, I think he almost invented the word because I think he's been doing this longer than anybody else. So Douglas and I will come back to that. But this particular panel, the back office, the back office, I cannot stress enough, especially in this market today, with all the little, how important it is. So there's one thing having a dream. There's one thing having the lawyers get all the filings done and everything, and you're live and you're raising capital. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is the people that actually make sure that it goes from someone expressing an interest to invest to be able to then do all what is required and then eventually put that capital in your company so you can start hiring people and building your firm. You don't hear about them. You don't, but they're important. So I'm going to let Jason Futko, my colleague, co-founder of KoreConnect, to lead us on this afternoon. Jason.
Thank you very much, Oscar. Welcome, everybody, and thanks for joining us. We've had some great panels so far, and it's looking like we've got a good one for this discussion as well. I've got the pleasure of joining a lot of very knowledgeable experts in the space this afternoon that are really going to help us sort of get a sense for what's required from the back end or the back office, what happens in the background on a lot of these transactions. There's a great panel just before this with all the investor acquisition firms, and they get all the front end. They're driving the traffic to all the sites, and then you've got all the people that have to deal with that influx of volume, and that's pretty much the people I've got on this call today. So it's going to be an interesting discussion. So I thank Aaron and Andrew, Amanda, Bill, and team for joining us today. They've all got a different perspective. So what I'm going to do is just turn it over to everybody. Give them a minute to, tell you a little bit about who they are and what they do and what their firm does. You want to give us a start off there, Aaron? I think you're on mute. No. Can anybody hear her?
Yeah, I'm not hearing. No.
No. We're having. Yeah, we'll skip. Try refreshing your screen and see if that helps. You want to give it a go there, Bill? You're on mute as well. There you go.
Sure, Jason. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah.
Well, my company, New Direction Trust Company, we specialize in IRAs and other tax-sheltered assets. So it adds another layer of complication to transactions. So we specialize in helping people buy what they're after. And for us, helping them buy it inside their tax-sheltered or tax-deferred plan is perfect for a lot of people because unlike me, who I look in my pocket, I don't find any money most of the time. But if I look in my plan, I have money to make these sort of long-term and maybe riskier investments in hopes of achieving higher returns long-term.
Fair enough. Sounds good. Andrew, do you want to jump in?
Sure, I can. Andrew Stevenson. I'm with CrowdCheck. We are a compliance services firm as well as a legal services provider. We have sort of two sides of our operations: CrowdCheck Incorporated and CrowdCheck Law. In this space, we can sort of help and advise as in that process of what is it that needs to be collected from investors, providing subscription agreements for the and other documentation required. But it's really I would say most of the heavy lifting is done by the firms that are doing the processing the transactions, really making sure that they're collecting everything from investors, and especially the investor funds, and that's the real critical piece. So you've got their interest from the marketing side, we can help out on the documentation, making sure it's compliant, making sure it's everything you need for either an offering under Reg CF or Reg A or any other. But then it's that big, then and then turning it over to the other panelists who are responsible for in making sure that that pipeline works, the funding comes in, and that everybody is accurately reflected in the investor logs of the company.
Right. Okay. Aaron, you're back with us. Do you want to give it a try?
I hope you can hear me now. Yeah?
We can.
Excellent.
We can.
So thank you so much, Jason. Hi, everyone. I'm Erin Holloway. I am president of Fund America by Prime Trust. We are the technology platform that stands up offerings. We stand up platforms, portals, broker-dealers, and individual issuers. So when someone wants to go ahead and do a raise, we're that technology behind it. They've already done all of the legwork to get it ready, but to actually stand it up and have the technology open the doors to be able to take in the investments is where we come in. And so, we're very happy that we have had a long standing history in the space, around since the very beginning in 2012. And we've done over $3 billion in investments. So it's an exciting time because the numbers are only climbing. We're only seeing larger volumes as regulation changes in our favor. So thanks so much for having me.
That's great. That's true. And last but not least, Amanda, my colleague at KoreConnect.
Hi, Jason. Thank you. Can you hear me as well?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Amanda Grange, and I am, as Jason said, with KoreConnect, and my role is transfer agent. So I guess you could say that I am the little caboose at the end of the capital raise for companies, and I get to work closely with the CEOs as their raise is beginning and the cap table is starting to populate, and it's my job to manage it and make sure that they stay within compliance of SEC rules and just everything that goes along with the cap table and managing it for CEOs and investors. And so it's a lot of fun, and I work hard to keep CEOs, keep their stress level down as their raise either comes to a close or it's ongoing. And so very behind the scenes, but it's exciting because you're at the end of it with corporations, and you really get to see the dreams come true as their raises come to a close and they meet their goals. So I find it really exciting. So thank you for allowing me to be here, and I'm excited to be along with the colleagues here today and get to know you as well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. So let's kick things off, I guess, with an easy one. I'll throw a lob up and see who can help us out on this. When it comes to getting the offering started for a lot of these issuers, are there things that they need to keep in mind when they're preparing to go live? And from each of your perspectives, what has to be done up front to sort of get the paperwork done, to get the compliance stuff ready, and move into a transaction? Want to jump in same order, maybe, Bill?
Sure, Jason. From our perspective, we're independent of the transaction, but what we do like to see is paperwork beforehand, so that when the first client comes in and looking at making a certain investment, there are a few things for IRAs in particular that we like to see, and just to make sure nothing pops up that the IRS would be irritated by. So we like to review those transaction documents beforehand. We're not looking at any of the details about any of the rates of return or expected returns or anything related to that, because we leave that entirely up to the investor themselves. But we do want to make sure it fits within the very broad definition of what the IRS allows inside these tax sheltered and tax preferred plans.
Okay, fair enough. Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to sort of kind of that planning and when getting ready to bring the investments in, and we need to make sure that the company has sort of the proper subscription documents ready to go. Those subscription documents need to discuss sort of how money is coming in, what is the process for submitting those funds, who's going to be, is there going to be escrow, it's going to be into an account that's controlled by the company, the methods that funds can be delivered, and then and we'd also want to know how the how the securities are going to be, the name of the security, how the securities are going to be recorded. Is it going to be sort of in the name of the investor, or is it going to be through a party like sort of like New Direction, where who is able to kind of where you're able to invest through a tax advantage account. There are other providers that can also sort of invest in, or if it's investing through a brokerage. But all that documentation needs to be sort of prepared up front, so that way you're not scrambling when at the time the investor is ready to put in the funds. They want to be able to sort of click and go. If it's you're coming back and saying, okay, well, we need thank you for your investment, but before we can take your money, we need to do this, we need to do this, and do this, and then provide all this other information, you're going to lose that investor. And so it's making sure there's a seamless process, that you've got that. So in those legal docs, they're not just mere formalities; they actually help affect what's going on. And so making that smooth transition from investor says yes to let's get signing the documents, to getting the pipeline for the funding, funds go into escrow, and then when ready to close, there's no further hiccups. You've got what you need from that investor as far as identifying information. So those are all things that need to be planned ahead. And we sometimes see it a lot of companies, they want to rush, like, hey, they just want to start throwing money at us. What do you like? What's the least amount of information we can collect? And it's like, no, you don't want to do that, because if you're not collecting everything up front, you're scrambling later, and it means that you're not going to actually bring in those investor dollars. So yes, you're going to have to put them through a little bit of a hurdle to make the initial investment, but you're much better off doing that than trying to scramble later.
Right. Excellent. And you raised a couple of interesting points there. Obviously, the technology to make it all run smoothly, and escrow. I think, if I'm correct, Aaron, that's something that you guys can help with. Is that something you want to jump in on?
Yeah, that's right. We absolutely help with that. So, when standing up the offering, I think accuracy is one of the most important things. We see people get tripped up just because, yeah, they might have all their documents, ready to go, but then when they're ready to stand up the offering, things don't match exactly right. The accuracy isn't there, and we have to slow the roll and make sure that it's correct, right? It's got to be clear, concise, and correct when we stand up the offering, so that we can get the escrow account opened, right? Because that's the ultimate goal. Open the escrow account, start getting those investors who are so eager to put their money, with their issuers into an escrow, and start to roll, be open, and get to completion, right? The goal is to get to each of your benchmarks or your milestones, to start getting the funds so that you can expand your company, build your company, go forward with your project, whatever it might be. So getting the money into the escrow is, we will hold that escrow funds until those benchmarks are met, and then start, paying out, or until completion, and making sure that everything is right above board. Everyone's doing it for the right reasons. And then the escrow account can be closed out at the closing of the offering.
Right. Excellent. Well, I see a lot of nodding from Amanda there too. I'm guessing accuracy of information and that we collect enough during the process are two key things for you. Want to tell us a little bit about what the TA's role is?
Yes, being clear and concise and accurate. I can't stress that enough, Aaron, and I support you on that. And making things seamless, like Andrew said as well, is so important, especially by the time you get to the end and your cap table is starting to populate, and you're seeing your investors, and the raises are closing, and the information is coming through. It's exciting. But it's still important that information is accurate. And I can't stress enough the importance of setting everything up originally at the beginning, before you even start your raise. Whenever I speak to CEOs and they're starting a raise, I like to remind them that your current investors, the people that invested in your company originally, you need to get those on your cap table and populated right away. Because you don't want them, they're the people that invested in your company originally, and you don't want them asking the question, once you start to do your raises and they're not seeing their original investments on your cap table. And then it will just save so much friction and questions and hassles. And it's something you don't want when you're in the middle of a raise, because it's exciting and you want to keep the excitement going. And my job as the transfer agent is to keep that excitement going and stay on top of that cap table and make sure it's up to date and accurate, and that when something closes, it's on the cap table right away. So investors can see their investments, and CEOs can see where they're at live. Like they know at the drop of a hat, they know exactly where they're at with their raise. It's so important when they're in the middle of a raise. So yeah, definitely agree.
Their patience are wearing during that process.
Exactly.
During the process, now I'm doing a little before, during, and after, if you haven't noticed the theme yet. During the process, there's probably a little bit less involvement maybe from Bill and Amanda, but I know Aaron's quite involved at that stage of the process, and so is Andrew. Can we get a little sense of the types of things that happen during the fundraise that sort of you guys manage and take care of? You're on mute.
Yeah. So say, in what kind of, so you think of sort of kind of hurdles or challenges that come up during?
Yeah, just things that you're going to have to manage during the process. I know that there's usually things that come up from the sense of the legal side, the ongoing issues from escrow and from compliance and KYC, and probably more the broker-dealer side, but Aaron would probably understand that a little bit as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, not everybody passes KYC, right? That's just part of the process. That's exactly why we do it. Not everybody passes, get an automatic stop, and then we go back and check. And then I'd say it's probably about, anywhere between 5 and 7% don't make the cut for various reasons, right? You never know what those reasons might be, but there's a whole lot of them. So I'd say it's about 5 to 7, and then there are times where, investors change their minds. So we're refunding money back. They've got a certain amount of time that they can say yay or nay. And, sometimes you do get, buyer's remorse, and they do have a window that they can change their mind. And so we're processing refunds. But beyond that, depending on how long the offering is open for, it's just making sure we watch those milestones. When a milestone's hit, there's a payout that's made. And it's funny, it's pretty active at the very beginning and pretty active at the end, but in the middle, it's a little bit of a more steady state. It's more of a slower roll, unless there's some nice marketing push like the previous session had talked about. That's their bread and butter is making sure that the marketing pushes happen at the right time. If there's a big marketing push, then again, we'll see a big influx as well. But the beginning is kind of the more important part, is getting the investor set up, getting them to pass KYC so that we can take the money. They decide that they're in, they decide that they're out, we get it to completion. So yeah.
Right. And we're kind of at a slight disadvantage here because Jim couldn't make the presentation today from Rialto, and they're they're knee deep in the middle of it during the transaction, and that's where they get, they're the ones that have to deal from a compliance backend on making sure that the KYC is done, following up on it. They have to do the AML. They have to do dealing with you guys on the escrow to manage that side of things as well. So there's a little bit of back and forth of chasing information and chasing agreements that happens from a compliance back end as well. And then, of course, after the fundraise, there's a whole new set of compliance issues. Anybody want to jump in on what sort of happens on closing and from then on?
I mean, I'll say if a raise is oversubscribed, and you do have people back out, you can go back to your kind of like wait list, and you need to pull people in and finish it out right. It's got to be tied up with a bow when you've got your cap table finalized, so that you can do your final payout, or maybe there's only one payout. depending on what the structure has been. But yeah, there's absolutely kind of like, it's kind of after the party, we call it, right? The party's over. There's a little bit. Do some cleanup after the party that we need to do to make sure that everything goes off as planned on the closing.
Yes, and if Jim was here, he would say that I work closely with him a lot in making sure, like you say, just tying that bow on. There's a lot of loose ends, and people don't know behind the scenes. There's a lot of things like there'll be investors that get missed and didn't go through, and even they passed the KYC and their investment closed, but it didn't get up to the onto the cap table for many different reasons. And so I work hard to quickly clean up those little messes and help them, like you said, Aaron, tie that bow on the end so that you have a lot of happy investors, happy companies, happy CEOs, and so that they'll be ready to do another raise if they want in the future. So it is important that it does wrap up smoothly and without any issues. So yeah.
Yeah, and imagine that's the time where you're hearing a lot from CEOs who are kind of saying, "Where's the money?" Because they're just not, they just don't understand what's happening. That it's not instantaneous. It's not. All these procedures do take time, and in order to get it right and to have that clean cap table that the company can use and go forward with into the future. And so it can be a little bit, so there's, we've seen it definitely in the companies that's, especially ones that want to like jump into the next thing. So you've done a CF, they're doing a CF, and now they're ready to jump into a Reg A, but they want to have that final number of what they raised in the CF. Yeah. It takes time to process, and that's just going to happen, and it's in order to do it right. And so that's so companies need to be aware of that. And entrepreneurs, like, it's not instantaneous, and just give everybody time to do it right.
Which is why I like the summits like this, because it reminds us that we all have to work together to support one another. Is the only way to keep the raises going smoothly and encourage CEOs and investors to reinvest, is to make sure that we're working together and supporting one another through the whole process. And so I really appreciate all the broker dealers, like everyone that I've been in touch with and worked with has really helped my job go a lot smoother.
Right, and it was mentioned earlier, obviously by Aaron, that there's some time for refunds. There's obviously time to do matching and reconciling. So you're right, Andrew. It does take a lot of time sometimes to get that through, and then depending on the connectivity you've got between your funding platform and your transfer agent and the other pieces of the puzzle, it also causes little delays and hiccups along the way as well. So those are important. From the wrapping up, Bill, you want to give us a couple thoughts also? Is there anything on the IRA side that has to happen towards the end or on closing that sort of needs to get taken care of?
So not really at the end, but just going back again to the beginning, I think the understanding, just because IRAs are a little different, understanding what's needed, and New Direction's been working closely with CoreCon for the past, I don't know how many years, try and get all the questions answered up front. Again, just sort of greasing the rails to make sure that we have all the info we need in advance. And maybe 95% of the time we do, but the 5% we might need an extra piece or something happen on the money movement. But just understanding that there may be a question, but our mission is to answer all the questions up front so we can get them signed up and get the whole process finalized without that client having to come back and say, "Oh yeah, what was I doing with that particular investment?" Or even worse, "What is this investment? I don't even remember doing it." But if we grease the rails in advance, make sure they understand and are confident, and get all the info we need right up front, then the closing is easy.
Right. So these all these people on this panel are here. They're kind of your unsung heroes in this transaction. They're not the ones front lines taking, driving traffic, but they're the ones managing the traffic flow and the closing. So from compliance right through to efficiencies, obviously the efficiency depends on which selections you make in the process and how automated each of those partners is with each other. But of course, the goal here is to maintain your regulatory compliance as efficiently as possible and get through that fundraise as efficiently as you can. Any final thoughts from everybody before we wrap up? I know Oscar's probably going to jump on in a minute here.
Just that we're all here to help, right? We're all part of the process. We're all here to help you succeed, right? To have a great raise so that you can fund your company, do your project, whatever it might be. Create your fund. Create tokens, tokenize something. Anything can become a token anymore, right?
You bet.
Anything
Everything. You know what? I want to NFT your glasses. I do want to NFT your glasses. There you go. See, that's exactly, guys. That was, you know what? In times right now, all of you know that I've been making phone calls to all of us, and Aaron has been, without a doubt, really very open. All of us are. We're all working with each other right now to obviously to make sure that our clients are successful. But we also need to put what I'm hoping that the industry will do as well. Give them proper expectations, because the work that all of you do is, it's unbelievable. I got to tell you. I mean, we obviously see it from all different sides, and thank you to all of you, Andrew Stevenson, Amanda, Bill, Jason, and Aaron. Thank you. I hope for the audience you all appreciate what's actually happening, because I'd often, all of us, Aaron, all of us in this team, Andrew, all of us been at the other side of the stick, where we get an entrepreneur yelling, they're screaming their head off. Well, why wasn't this done yesterday? I closed my deal on Monday. Well, my friend, but they don't, so we're all going to need to be, I'm even working on a chart right now to show them how long it takes from the minute that, so they go, enough is enough. This is how it really happens. Just because the investor made the investment doesn't mean that Aaron's going to give us the money from escrow right away. And neither is Aaron. Bill Humphrey has to do his work. So I think this is a really great insight to that. Thank you all for kicking for the wonderful year we had in 2021. I want to thank you all. In 2022, obviously the back office. Listen, everyone, if the back office doesn't work fiscally clean, 2022, the goals of hitting 1 billion in 1 year, the only way that's going to happen is if you understand how the back office works. Thank you, and we'll get started in the next session.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Oscar.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Bye.